Hi, and welcome to History's a Blast. We're in the village of Moreland Hills, Ohio, southeast of Cleveland, and behind me is the cabin in which President James Garfield was born. We thought we'd stop by on our way to see his house up on Lake Erie Shore in Mentor, Ohio. So come along and we'll see what there is to see here. The statue by William T. Moore, dedicated in 1991, stands just a little bit to the left of the cabin, behind the village maintenance facilities. The cabin is open when volunteers are available, and you got to kind of call ahead. There's a sign out there that says it'll be open this Saturday. James Abram Garfield, 20th President of the United States. He was assassinated by a frustrated office seeker. The cabin is a reproduction based on descriptions. You know the dimensions and how many windows it had. That's about it. This is where he was born. Well, this is the building in which he was born. Apparently the actual location of the cabin where before they reconstructed this one is about a quarter of a mile down this trail, which is sort of a trail that goes through nature. Garfield was sort of a naturalist. He described this place where he first learned the constellations and their places in the heavens. It is my Greenwich, where all the world is exactly in the right place. Well, we'll take a walk down the trail. A lot of stairs to get down into the ravine here. We're walking sort of parallel to a fairly busy road. The bioretention area. So they're doing a little bit of environmental education and presidential history. It was a very rainy night last night. This region received somewhere between 1.5 to 2 inches of rain in the space of about 8 hours. There flash flood warnings all over the place, and in our campground, the nearby brooklet was near to overflowing its banks. We were very anxious for a while there before it finally calmed down about 1 o'clock in the morning. Look at the bird chasing a bug. All right, down and then back up the hill here. Oh, up the steps. Get some exercise this midday. Watch the tree roots. Oh, here we go. Here's the birthplace. James A. Garfield was born in a cabin in the wilderness on November 19th, 1831. Young Garfield worked as a school teacher in the Ledge School District in Solon, which we passed through on the way up here, and later in the Warrensville schools. And although he had to deal with many disciplinary problems, he excelled as a teacher and went on to teach at Hiram Eclectic Institute. Later became principal at the age of 26. He also preached as a minister of the Church of Christ wherever he was invited. He also worked in the canal. At the age of 15, he walked to Cleveland, a journey of almost 3 days, and was hired by a cousin as a mule driver. Wow. Debbie, there's a great heron over here. Oh, it's a statue. Yeah, it is. It's a statue. Never mind. Okay, we're going to head up to Mentor now and visit the James Garfield National Historic Site. So come along and we'll see you there. Garfield's Lawnfield Estate is in Mentor, Ohio, today a very upscale suburban community on the Lake Erie Shore northeast of Cleveland. A storyboard outside the visitor center shows what the area looked like when the Garfields moved here in 1876. A farming rural area. The visitor center has an exhibit about Garfield's Civil War career, where he served with distinction at the Battle of Chickamauga near Chattanooga, Tennessee in September 1863. And there's another one about the contentious Republican National Convention of 1880, where 35 ballots failed to nominate a presidential candidate until Garfield, who protested throughout that he did not want the job, won on the 36th. It's a very interesting Wikipedia read, by the way. Of course, there's an exhibit on his assassination by a disgruntled office seeker in 1881. Ironically, Garfield supported legislation for civil service reform to replace the corrupt spoils system that had prevailed for decades. His successor, Vice President Arthur, eventually signed it into law. This is a fee-free site, open 10 to 5 daily, May through October, and Friday through Sunday, November through April. In the tradition of the time, Garfield did not actively campaign for the presidency, but he did meet with reporters at Lawnfield and give short political speeches from the veranda in what became known as the Front Porch Campaign. As many as 17,000 people traveled to Mentor, population 540 in those days, to see and hear him. Ranger-guided tours of the mansion and the library begin at noon, with the last tour started at 3 p.m. Tours last about an hour and do involve going up and down stairs. Behind the mansion is a small building used as a campaign headquarters. It's a really stark reminder of how things have changed in presidential politics since those days. The tour took us through most of the house, including the domestic spaces in the original building and the memorial library in a large wing added by Garfield's widow, Lucretia, after his death, on the left rear. Here we're in the Presidential Research Library and Museum, the first one of its kind in the United States. Now, the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library and Museum, established in 1916 over toward Toledo, also calls itself a first presidential library, and that's also correct, with the important qualifier that it is open to the public. We were there in 2020, and there's a link to the video in the description of this video. The Garfield Memorial Library was within the family residence, so access was by invitation, and Lucretia Garfield determined who got to see her late husband's personal papers. At any rate, it's a wonderful space. And I was struck by 3 prominently displayed portraits of men who Garfield admired, all of whom have historical reputations that are, shall we say, somewhat problematic. Wandering the grounds after the tour, we were struck by this large windmill added by Lucretia in the 1890s to provide fresh running water to the mansion. It served both a practical and an ornamental purpose, being what was called then a feature to keep up with the Joneses on the other estates in the Cleveland area. With that, we'll bring this episode to a close. I hope you liked this video, and we'll take time to look at some of our other ones. See you soon.